Welcome to another episode of Future Institute's Future Talk segment. Future Talks is a monthly podcast organized and hosted by Future Institute, a nonprofit organization committed to growing student success and building a better society. Each month, you will hear from one of our stakeholders, which includes graduates, program participants, board members, sponsors, supporters, and community members. I am your host, Nichole Pientka, Program Officer for one of Future Institute's programs, the Future Leaders Initiative, or FLI Program. Today, our guest is one of our career mentors for one of my program participants, Precious Taiwo, who I spoke to during a previous episode. I'm so happy to welcome Christina Wagener. Christina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me today. And I'm so happy to be able to share my wonderful experience with the Future Institute and, of course, with my mentee. So a little bit about me. I have a really interesting background. I actually have an undergraduate degree in business, and then probably mid-career, about 9 years into it, decided that I wanted to change the course of my career and became a nurse. And then years later, a nurse practitioner. And now recently in 2019, because it feels kind of like 2020 was a time warp, in 2019, got my doctorate in nursing leadership and my MBA. So right now I work a predominantly administrative role, not necessarily seeing patients, where I'm kind of merging, I would call it the business of healthcare, because that's a gap that I unfortunately see too often, that people in senior leadership positions may not have that bedside experience or that clinical experience. So being able to marry the business and the wonderful patient care is kind of my expertise.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's congratulations, first off, on completing your degrees. That's excellent.
I'm never going to end. That's probably the wrong message for this podcast, but 5 degrees later, I think it's fair that I say that.
Well, you certainly accomplished a lot, so I don't blame you. You've gotten this far, and that's amazing. So that's wonderful to hear. So why did you decide to volunteer as a mentor?
So I am a first generation college student in my family. And I remember that I was probably not the best high school student, to be fair. I was working and going to high school, and it's high school. And so when it was time for me to go to college, my parents felt that I was maybe not necessarily a good fit for college, which anyone who knows me knows that that's kind of a challenge when someone tells me that I can't do something. Usually then it's my goal in life, hence the doctorate probably, right? To be able to say, no, that's not true. So I kind of forged my path to higher education. I wouldn't say without their support, but I would say probably without potentially the support that some people do receive. I picked my undergraduate college without ever going to visit it. I applied for only one school because it was the closest to my house. So I think that sometimes, if you're a first generation student, my family is not from this country, that there is a little bit of a learning process from your family to kind of understand, what your path could be or should be. And maybe your path isn't as clear as it might be for some. Let's say my sister, her path was very clear to higher education. And she's also wonderfully successful. But mine was probably a little less apparent to them. And so I feel like being a mentor to those who might be in a similar situation, or frankly, those who aren't necessarily sure about what they want to do, to be able to help guide them and saying, you can always change your mind, because I did multiple times, and it's really worked out well. So I think for me, the reason why I became a mentor is because I really wanted to make sure that if there were people that were out there like me, that they had someone who would be there for them.
I think that's such a wonderful thing that you were able to defy a lot of your odds, and so you want to help students defy their own odds. So that's amazing, and that's exactly what we're looking for in the mentors that volunteer. And kind of speaking of that, do you have or did you have any mentors like in your life that helped you get you where you are today? Like I know you said your parents didn't really necessarily help, but was that anyone there to help you?
So to be honest with you, I would say that my sister was a soft mentor, not because she was really cheering me on to achieve, but because she was older than I was. I got to see and learn from what she experienced to decide what I wanted to experience. So that for me went both ways. There were some things that she did that I said, I really want to do that. And there were other things that she did that said, I'm probably not going to do that. But from an actual official mentor perspective, I didn't find a really great support system mentor probably until my sophomore year of college, and one of my teachers that I actually still communicate with and I'm very good friends with today. So it did take me a little bit of time to find that sort of official person for me, but I still do keep in touch with them. And I think throughout my career, as I've changed roles and grown as a person, that both they have stayed with me as a mentor and now friend, probably more than anything, but also I've picked up other mentors, sometimes officially and sometimes a little bit more casually, as I've gone through my career. And usually it's because I see people and say, I want to do that. And I reach out to them and say, hi, I'm so-and-so and I want to do that. How did you get there? And people are actually very, very responsive to that and really want to take part in helping others achieve. I find that to be the case probably 99.9% of the time.
Yeah, sometimes all you have to do is ask. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there you go. Well, that's great. It's great that you had at least someone to kind of look up to and had some unofficial mentors along the way. What do you think is the most important part of being a mentor in your opinion?
So for me, the most important part of being a mentor is to be available to my mentee. In the future program, there's wonderful opportunities that you can schedule through the system, and that you're keeping track of when people need to meet, when they're available. But my particular mentee, Precious, was going for a scholarship and wanted to practice doing a mock interview. And we had just met, but then she wanted to meet again and go through some questions, being available to her. Sometimes for me, it was hard with the hours that she was available versus me. So we did a lot of emails back and forth. And so I think the most important thing is to be open, to be willing to provide any kind of guidance and advice, and to be flexible on the times that you're available. And then the most important thing, I think, is to just be that supportive voice, right? And provide that kind of support where they need it. And I think, and sometimes it might be a different supportive voice than they think that they need as well. I would tell you, Precious, my mentee, is absolutely amazing. And her biggest concern was that she was going to struggle when she got to school because the curriculum was going to be very hard. And I almost started laughing, and I said, Precious, you're the smartest person I know. You're doing wonderful. Like, you need to focus on enjoying yourself a little. And I think she got nervous by my response. So I think that sometimes being that mentor to help them find balance very early on, because I too am very driven, and if left to my own devices would work probably 24 hours a day. But finding that balance to be able to enjoy life as well, I think, is a very big responsibility of the mentors.
Yeah, I definitely think it's very important to sometimes like you need that little like push, like you don't have to work this hard, you don't have to, be dedicated 24/7 to your degree, like you should enjoy a little bit here and there and just make sure you're on track.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you share anything else about your mentorship with Precious? Any other things that kind of stood out to you, or some great moments that you had?
Sure. So I would tell you that she and I hit it off really well because she is very interested in healthcare and nursing. And for her, what she wants to do is something that I used to do. Now, does that necessarily mean that if she didn't want to be a nurse that I wouldn't have been able to click with her? Absolutely not. But I think sometimes it's really great to be able to say to someone, what is it like to do this job? And so I think that from that standpoint, she and I hit it off very well immediately. I think that we both came from a similar situation where, we're first generation college students. And again, I don't think that has to be something that you have in common, but for us, it worked very well together because we could understand the similar conversation of maybe they don't necessarily understand exactly what and why this is important to me. So I think having all of those things in common were great. I think for me, it was just as much of a learning experience to hear about how school is working in a pandemic, the struggles for Precious. She was not coming out of high school going into college. She's part of your FLI program. So she is moving from a community college into a 4-year college. So for her, kind of navigating that, potentially not being at home anymore, and how she was a college student while still living at home, which was actually very interesting for me because I went away for the entire 4 years. So some things I learned from her probably just as much as she learned from me, to be fair.
It's great to hear that you guys have bonded so well because, I know there's a lot of, mentorships that work, they just like click almost instantly. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work. I mean, it takes work no matter what, but it's great to hear that you guys really clicked pretty well, and you're able to learn from each other. Do you have any other advice that you'd give to like other mentors just out there? Any kind of like words of wisdom that you can give based on your experience?
Sure. So what I would say is that I think sometimes people don't want to be mentors because they feel like it's a big time commitment, or that they don't have anything to offer. And I would tell you that I felt that way previously. I've had a mentorship experience that maybe I didn't have the best fit the first time, which probably made me a little less interested to do it again. Thankfully, this experience was absolutely amazing. But I would say it's not a lot of time. And I think that it helped me almost probably as much as it helped her, would be my guess. Being able to have insight into a different generation was actually very helpful for me. But I think the biggest thing would be is that it's not as much time as you think, and you have a lot to offer and you just don't realize it. I think sometimes just having someone to bounce a question off of that may not judge you, that is not related to you, that I have no reason to give her a response that would not be truthful and accurate. So I think from a mentor perspective, everyone should do it because I think that you only gain from it. And it's actually really fun to watch someone succeed.
I definitely agree. Sometimes you never know if the mentorship's going to work out, but give it a chance, and I think a lot of times it'll work itself out, and you'll get to learn a lot. So that's great that you've been having that experience. Anything else you want to any other comments you want to make about your mentorship or anything?
No, I mean, like I said, I would really advise to everyone, both the mentors and the mentees, to get involved. I think sometimes having a more organized and structured program like this is actually very helpful because then it stays at the top of your mind. And I also think that having the opportunity for her and I to continue to be in a program would be great. If not, we'll probably still continue to talk to each other all the time. But I can't tell you how happy I am for her. I don't want to spill the beans, but she did get a full ride scholarship, which I'm so proud of her for doing. And to be honest with you, I'm also a little proud that I was able to help her. I really wish that I had something like this when I was younger, because I can't tell you, how wonderful it was for me to participate from this side. I wish I could have participated from the other when I was in her shoes. So it's actually wonderful for me to be able to participate and watch someone excel and be successful, and then have that connection where, I told her, in 2 years, when you're ready to work, please come and find me, because I'll need good people. I always do. So it's been a great experience, and I can't give enough great feedback about it.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, your feedback and everything like that. And it's so, and I'm really excited for Precious as well. She told me about, moving on to a 4-year university, getting the scholarship. I'm over the moon for her, because I know she was so just like nervous about it, and I'm so glad that she made a real connection with you, and I hope I'm hoping that you guys will continue meeting, for the next couple years, as long as she's in the program and in college and everything. And I think that'll be super beneficial for her as well as you as
Yes.
well. So thank you so much, for your time today. And thank you to our listeners. To learn more about us, visit futureinstitute.us. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at MyFutureUS. Thank you so much again, Christina. It was so wonderful to have you. Thanks for taking your time out of your day to meet with me. And I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.